Hey, everybody, this is Howard Chayk, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics, and I highly recommend you spend some time with these folks. Later.
Absolutely perfect. Go figure. What's happening?
Book of the month.
It is.
Book of the month.
You're not lying. Clementine's journey in the first part of the book was a little bit rough sailing for me at first.
I'm glad you grounded into form.
We'll get into it though. No. Hey everybody, it's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 877, and I'm Vince B.
You are Vince B. I am David A. Price.
It's true, and I'm a bad mofo because I'm John Shaft.
Yeah, pour one out.
Pour one out for the OG. Richard Roundtree, rest in power.
Yep. You know what? You can be Shaft.
Nice.
Good to have you here, Mr. Shaft.
Respect. You know that was Richard Roundtree's first movie ever?
I got it right the first time.
Richard. Yep.
Yeah.
But how crazy is that? I mean, he was in so many films over his career, but Shaft, the first Shaft in '71 was his first ever movie role.
I wonder if that was an inspiration to Mr. Liefeld. You think? The name.
Oh. Well, I don't know.
Because it is very
certainly the right age cohort, right? I mean,
yeah, and the name does bring with it certain connotations.
Sure.
Right? Shaft.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob was probably what, your age, Vince?
I would think he's about 4 years younger than myself. Maybe 5.
He's 56.
Oh, well, he's only 2 years younger than me.
Yep.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. You know what else is excellent?
What?
Saving money on trade paperbacks, omnibus, and manga.
I know that's right.
And graphic novels, right?
Yep.
You can save huge amounts of money over
Mega.
cheapgraphicnovels.com. One more time, cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's built right into the name. You know what you're going to get. You're going to find all the stuff you want at far less than list price. The dogs even love cheapgraphicnovels.com. I just partook in something from the Nick and Dent sale.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a book I didn't have. I'll just tell you, New Mutants Omnibus.
Ooh.
Never had it. Sold all the issues. So it was like $50.
Damn.
So I said, this is mine. And it's shipping. I ordered it 2 days ago. Got a message early today. Bam, that it was shipping. It's not, you can't get any easier than that, people. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. And when you place an order, you are going to receive an email confirmation of said order. You're going to reply to that email you're going to reply to that email and say, hey, 11 O'Clock Comics sent me. And you're going to bounce back with another email that says, you know what, you're going to save 100% on your shipping for your next order. Yes, that's true. It's right. Free shipping on your second order. It's insane. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's the icing on an already delicious cake.
You damn right. I was talking to Max earlier this week.
How do you rate?
How do I rate?
Yeah.
Listen, bro, this is a 33.3% owned triple venture. We all have equal voice.
We do. Are you doing sports?
No, it's the alarm to give Hobbs his medicine. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were
I normally have it muted, but my phone wasn't on mute.
I thought you were doing sports.
But no sporting events tonight.
Good.
My Phoenix Suns got the dub, the season opener last night. That was pleasing.
Okay.
Yep.
I am drinking blue raspberry flavored sparkling water beverage.
That's kind of new, I think.
Yeah, I buy them by the case. So I go in streaks, right? Because you got to drink the whole case. And I have like 4 cases of this water stuff on hand, and I just cracked open the blue raspberry case.
There you go.
Yeah.
Water stuff.
Water beverage.
I am drinking strawberry blueberry flavored seltzer water.
Wow. Lame am us. Dap, what are you drinking?
Delicious.
Yeah, it's good, but I would be drinking beer if I had time. What?
I'm drinking something with a fruity flavor.
Oh.
When we met Daryl and Raph and Julian for dinner and drinks, I noticed whenever there's a spot that has Hendrix on the menu, I generally let my wife know because that's her gin of choice. So I let her know, hey, Smithfield Hall has Hendrix. So I took a screenshot, but also in the shot from the menu was something called Gunpowder, which is from Drumshanbo. It's an Irish gin. So she said, oh, you should have got the Gunpowder. And I didn't, but I found out that our local spot actually sells it. So I am drinking from Drumshanbo with California Orange Citrus Gunpowder Irish Gin and it's gunpowder because it's infused with gunpowder tea and a hint of California Orange Citrus. So I'm having a gin and tonic with the Gunpowder Orange Citrus Gin, and it is lovely.
Nice.
Just like Jason.
Yes.
I will say, Dab was very pleased, though, because although I'm not drinking tonight, I was in Boston this weekend for Jackson's parents' weekend, and it was really just a series of meals with him. Is pretty much what it came down to. And on a rainy Saturday, after going to the Boston Aquarium, we went to a restaurant nearby, and they had a lot of, the artisanal cocktails, if you will. So I got a cocktail that had Maker's Mark in it. First time I ever drank Maker's Mark, so I had to let Dap know that.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
It was just on the edge of me not wanting to drink it, but I did drink it, and it was tasty. I mean, like tasty enough, but it was definitely like a Bloody Mary. Like I had it. I don't know that I'm needing to have it anytime soon again.
Right.
Well, isn't that all of the things in life that make us better people? We're just on the edge of not wanting to do them, but we do them.
No.
I think so.
No, the things I love most, I would like to do them as often as my physiology would allow.
And with that, let's open up the book of the month for October, the Halloween month, and rightly so, because it is a partial horror title. It is Clementine. I fuck it up. It is Clementine.
Yes.
Book 1. Written and illustrated by Tillie Walden.
Yes.
Great tones by Cliff Rathburn. And I got a little bit of a bone to pick with Skybound. Now, I knew going in that the gray tones were done by Cliff Rathburn. But why we got to wait till the back of the book to be told that?
Yeah, crazy, right?
You know? There's a big old splash page that says Clementine, Tillie Walden, bum, 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 and there's more than enough room to put Gray Tones by Cliff Rathburn, but they didn't. And lest anyone call me a hypocrite, yes, the featured image for this episode only says Clementine Book 2 by Tillie Walden because I did not have enough space to put Cliff Rathburn, because if I did, the text would have been about 12 point, and that's way too small. So I'm chiding them for not doing it, but in a sense, I did it myself.
I wonder if it's a thing where Cliff didn't even want
Could be.
mention, and she just felt compelled to thank him for it.
But it's a huge part of the book.
It is.
And they didn't put editor and with all that stuff on the splash page because those are mostly unseen hands in the creative process. Rathburn's work is front and center. Like, I think he should have been credited.
You know what I really think is going on here?
What?
And I'm totally pulling this out of my ass, so I could be way off base, but I think because of the format and everything, it is presented like a YA novel, right? And in a YA novel, you have an author, and they're at the top of the book, just like the setup is here, and that's why they do it that way.
Yeah, but it may be presented like a YA novel, but it doesn't read like one.
No.
Right? Yeah, there's some harshness in it.
Absolutely.
So yes, Clementine, Book One, Tillie Walden, Cliff Rathburn, Skybound imprint.
Yeah, I don't get to ask my monthly question because
it's
a brand spanking new book, and we all just read it for the first time.
Yeah, it just came out.
I mean, I know Dap actually technically read it like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we first got it, but
he did. And like I said, going into this episode, you may not have heard it because of the music, but I was about 50 pages into this, and I'm like, ooh.
My man was feeling salty. Yeah.
This is I wasn't feeling salty. I was like, this is moving at a snail's pace. Like, let's get the show on the road. And maybe it was just my mindset, or the general, quality of things currently, but I wasn't in the right headspace to read it. So I finished it, and I was like, oh, okay, nice. I'm going to read this again in a day. And I did. Reread it. And not to bury the lead, but I thought it was wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't think we should compare it to the first one because it's not the same book the first one was. There's a different agenda this time around. Yeah. I think the first book was just shuffling around the pieces and getting the band together, and the second book is the familial unit of Clem and her world moving into a new status quo. So I thought everything that needed to be done was done in the first book, and now we have a new outlook, more or less. For characters are in different spots than they were in the first book. Let's just get into it, right? Let's just not.
Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to ask you two, it was whether or not you vividly remembered the first volume, such that when you picked this up and opened it, you were like, felt fully ready to roll. And I asked because I was not. I opened up the book, read the first few pages, and thought, wait a minute. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah.
What did I miss? And I thought, God damn, I don't remember Volume 1 very much. So I went back, skimmed Volume 1, found a pretty detailed recap on a Walking Dead like fan wiki, that talks about all the stuff, and read that quickly and was like, oh, okay, and it all came back to me. But I definitely, if I hadn't paused for the cause and refamiliarized myself with the first volume, I think I would have felt a little lost.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't remember was the conveyance. I didn't remember the airplane.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I remember
that. I remembered the airplane. I remembered some of the events from the first book, but I kind of just, I guess, remembered the ending pages more than anything else. And it took me a minute. I mean, thankfully, she kept thinking about him, but I was like, who the hell is? And of course, it was Amos. So I mean, I didn't remember the nitty gritty or details from any certain pages, but the overall kind of story I recall. But yeah, them getting out of Dodge in the way they did, that's still in my head.
But where I was confused is jumping right into this book. I mean, at the start of this, they're huddled together, sleeping and not sleeping, but hiding, ready to go to sleep, and talking about their travails of it being a few weeks since the plane crashed. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, like, and so I had to go back and the plane does not crash in the first volume. Nope. So this is Tillie just kind of bringing us into the fact that since we last visited this world, their plane crashed.
Yeah, I had to recall some of the not events, but character makeup. Like, so as I said, I'm about 50 pages into it. I'm like, damn, Clem is a cold-hearted bitch. Like, she just this young lady is flinging herself at her. And I was like, well, wait a minute. And then I recalled from the first volume that Clem has issues with permanence. Like, she actually feels bad that she hasn't passed on.
Yeah.
Because everybody around her just seems to just die or remove themselves in some way. So she's very hesitant to open herself up to relationships. So it's like, okay, now that makes perfect sense why she's acting this way. And Rick is pretty much an open book, and she always has been. But it was Olive, like, when the reveal happens, I was like, oh, damn, that's right. Yeah, I get it now. I get it. Why she's always sick and spends a whole lot of time alone. And but the one thing that I didn't remember, or didn't dawn on me initially, and it happens when they're walking along. It's early in the book, and they're quizzing each other on their times tables. And I thought, that's right. These characters haven't really been schooled.
Exactly.
Like they
were learning to read in the first one.
Right. Yeah. They're picking up knowledge and experience as they go along. They were never sat in a regimented learning institution, because there wasn't any. And I was like, oh, that makes complete sense. So they're trying to increase their knowledge where they find it. So I think that's very important, because it just makes Clem even more impressive that she's come this far, and she really hasn't been taught the basics, like, reading and writing.
Don't need it in the world. This world just need to survive,
Yeah, but what about art, Jason? What about art?
What? Well, yeah, yeah. Well, this world doesn't really delve into that, but yes.
No, I mean, we have cultural amnesia as it is. I see it on a regular basis. The kids just don't know. Like, you say the Beatles, and they don't know what you're talking about. Oof. Like, really, there's a very strong undercurrent of cultural amnesia with the current crop, and maybe even earlier than the current crop. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent.
Professor,
yeah,
his woe is me for the current generation.
Well, foo on me for living this long, I guess.
Exactly.
Right. So the plane crashes, and the pertinent detail is Clem's leg is fucked. She gets an infection. She doesn't know what to call it. It just hurts, and that's all she knows. But she's infected, and it gets progressively worse to the point where she just basically goes into a vegetative state. She's out of it. Fever.
Yep. Septic.
Yeah, septic is bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's when Ricka and Olive take matters into their own hands, and they're near they're at a coastline, so they find a boat. They hail down the I guess the what would you say? One person in a boat is called a pilot of the boat.
A sailor?
Driver? You drive a
Captain?
boat? Is he,
Captain? Yeah.
Is she really a captain?
Yeah, I would say anyone that's in charge.
If you're in charge of the boat, yeah.
But it's like a dinghy. It's not even a real big boat. It's a
Captain
little.
Stabbin was a captain.
That's right.
You're an ass. They all every episode was exactly the same, and yet we watched every one. Yeah,
Formative years.
and they're taken to an island of survivors, and you would think, wow, an island. This is great, and it's a Canadian island. This is awesome because now we're secluded. And how could the dead get to an island? But they do.
They do. Like often.
they wash up on shore, and that was really cool. That even though they were on an island and took precautions to safeguard themselves from the washed up dead, that when Ricka and Olive were selecting somewhere to stay, Ricka was smart enough to say, I picked the one on the tallest cliff, because she was just trying to safeguard Clem. Like, that's a neat little insight into just how much Ricka feels for Clem.
Mm-hmm.
And feel free to pick it up, because I don't feel like talking the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of them getting rescued on the island is cool. I think that to your point, because Clem is septic, she's unconscious on this island for nearly a month, or right around a month, recuperating. And to the point where, you have to think, if someone's unconscious for a month, man, especially in that world, you have to think, like, kudos to them for trying to keep her alive. I'm surprised that
it's a long time.
Pull the plug, right? But but Olivia finds her and was like, "Oh, you're awake," and starts telling her everything. And Clem's, vexed because she's just lived in this world that is just constant danger.
Well, that's one of the things. I think if Clem was awake and aware, she never would have allowed them to go to the island.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was probably, at least for a while, it was probably in her best interest to go to the island and get treated while she was out of it, because if she had her say, she would not have allowed herself to be taken there. Yeah. What is it about communities in The Walking Dead? Like, is there a manifesto or a Walking Dead Bible that says somewhere communities are bad? Because every fucking community in The Walking Dead dissolves, is broken up or destroyed.
I think it's really about the fact that, right, we're not breaking new ground here, but the obviously Kirkman's entire idea here is that humanity is the real danger, right? Like, and so I think that's it would make sense that these communities, which are, there's going to be holes in the building of these communities, right? And I will say, and I just to be clear here, I very much enjoyed the book, but I will say that there were some things in the construction of this dynamic, this island that I thought were it was a little hard for me to buy into some of it. Like especially because I don't know what. Here's an interesting topic. What percentage of people would you think that are reading the Tillie Walden Clementine books have not read The Walking Dead?
Oh, I think it's pretty high.
Probably high, right?
Yeah, I would say at least 85%.
Oh, I can't be that high, dude.
You don't think?
Everybody's read The Walking Dead. It's one of the best-selling comics of our lifetimes. I don't. Millions of people have read The Walking Dead. Like, I don't know. But my point. But you're actually. I'm not going to argue with you.
No, I don't want to argue. But here's my reasoning.
Sure.
Tillie made her name on books outside of that circle.
Definitely.
Right? On a Sunbeam is not going to apply to people who have read The Walking Dead.
Right. My central point is actually to agree with you here, because I think some of the tropes that we see in this book are extremely formulaic relative to someone who's read 160 issues of The Walking Dead and or watched years of the television show, where nothing that happened on the on the danger side was it all surprising or shocking or impactful to me, right? Like this is The Walking Dead world, right? Like, and you even joked about it, like join a community. It seems good. There's some fatal flaw. Sometimes that fatal flaw is that the leader's evil. Sometimes that fatal flaw is that they think they're safe and they're not, which is the case here. But ultimately, things crumble. People you're supposed to care about die. The people you really care about barely escape together to start over and start again on their journey. Like, that is the ethos of The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And I didn't come, and I bring it up because I'm trying to play fair here. I really like the book, and I like the book a lot because it's a Tillie Walden book, and all the reasons I like the book are somewhat in spite of the fact that it's set in the Walking Dead universe, because the Walking Dead parts of this book just felt very formulaic and not at all like, this isn't the most dangerous city story we've gotten from The Walking Dead, right? This isn't the most impactful. We barely knew most of these people, so I didn't really care about their death. So, like, all of that's kind of like, yeah, cool. Like, I'm obviously a huge Walking Dead fan. I spent a decade reading the comics, so I'm like here for it. But it was all the other aspects of this book that I came away thinking, okay, yeah, like, thank goodness Tillie Walden's doing this book, because if this was just like, someone doing a Walking Dead spinoff, I would have been like, eh.
See, I don't completely agree with you because I think you're forgetting about universal truths, right? In the waking world, there are universal truths. If you don't pay your taxes, bad things happen. It may take a while, but bad things happen, right? And there's a laundry list of things actions we can take in the waking world that cause repercussions that have repeated themselves over time. The part with the spreading the guts on them, that's a Walking Dead universal truth.
Yes.
That if you smear yourself with guts, the dead will not notice you. We've seen it in the show. We saw it in here. That doesn't make it rote. That just means it's a truism, that it works. So for Tillie to employ something that actually works or has been shown to work in this universe, why is that rote?
No, that part isn't rote, but it's rote that they have this community which has been fostered for a long time before we are brought into this community, and it's been its own little microcosm that's existed and flourished. And is it perfect? No, but everyone there is feeling safe and satisfied and has hardworking but normal lives. And then but then there's this thing they had never accounted for, and then oops, it just so happens that suddenly things go wrong, and now they have to leave, and everyone gets like that part's so super rote to me. And it's like, again, I don't know, I'm not blaming her for it. Like,
right.
like it's The Walking Dead, but I'm like, the second, if you're familiar with The Walking Dead, if you're not reading, if this isn't your first experience with this world, which, as you noted, probably for a lot of people it is, in which case you'd experience this very differently. But the second, like, Clem wakes up and she gets wheeled into the group and we meet the group, right? I mean, I don't speak for you two, but I was thinking like, okay, how's this going to go wrong? Which one of them is going to screw up? Which one of them is going to backstab them?
Yeah, you know it's going to go south.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, again, that's fine, because I think the strength of this book and the reason that Kirkman is legit genius to have lured Tillie into this world is that, and we said the same thing in the first volume, like the magic of this is that Tillie's crafting this wonderfully complex YA story with these very interesting, fully fleshed out young people who are dealing with extreme circumstances, which is really her bailiwick. And, it just so happens that in this case, the circumstances are this post-apocalyptic world where there's zombies. But that's really just the set piece, right? It's really their interactions and their issues of how they were raised and how they're having to deal with their immersions into adulthood and love and community. That's the magic. I mean, that's where her special flair is. So,
right.
And that's all here in droves.
There's I know there's some kind of commentary about community. I feel it, right? To flesh it out, could it be that established communities that let outsiders in are destined to fail? Like, because that's what we've seen in Walking Dead. That they always come to these established communities and they somehow worm their way in, and then that's when things go to shit. And so this community on the island has existed for however long, but then when Clem and company get there, that you can actually feel the countdown timer click on, because it's like, oh well, we know this is not going to end well, and maybe I'm dwelling on it too much, but that seems to be a trope in Walking Dead, that a group of people that form that community, fine. Someone else from the outside world is ushered in. Now we're doomed. So I don't know. You read into that what you will. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but it's not a concept that I approve of, because in the big world, we deal with that all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You gotta shore up those border walls, because them others are gonna come in, and that's not productive thinking, right? Whatever. And for you were talking about Tillie and the reason why this book works, or these books work so well. I think the reason that it's such a novel take on an existing universe, the reasons are two for me. Clem and Ricka. That's the only reason why these books work for me. And there was a minute towards the end of the book where I was ready to burn down the planet. Because we know you don't get attached, other than the title character, you don't ever get attached to people in the Walking Dead world because, as we've seen, almost anyone can die. There's a core that never will. Rick, Michonne, Daryl Dixon, right? Maybe one or two. But the name of this series is Clementine. So I doubt she's going to die. Right? Unless Tillie says, okay, the story has progressed to the point where I'm comfortable with ending it. Okay, then maybe. But yeah, I thought Ricka was going to die at the end. And I was just like, this planet is not long for this world because I will go on a freaking berserker rage and just tear everything down. Yeah. She's my favorite character, even more than Clem. I like Ricka the best. Mm-hmm. She has the patience of Job.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, she can't see her own feet, but
that's bad. Can you imagine what would be worse in the Walking Dead world than to be blind? You're done.
Blind or deaf.
You're done.
It's one thing not to have, to be missing an appendage or two, but to not have one of those senses where you just need to be aware of what's around you. Whether it's by sight or sense or sight or hearing or even smell, but I can't. That would just. I'd curl up in a ball. I wouldn't know what to do.
No, I think you could go without everything but sight. I think you are absolutely doomed if you don't, or you need a support mechanism that could be dead too. So if you can see, you can fight. If you can't hear, you can still fight. Right, you just have to be super alert. Right, keep eyes on the sky, on everything.
Just go out there in the day. Because once it gets dark and you can't, and all you have is sight. If you can't hear anybody coming up behind you, or if you're wandering around the woods like everybody seems to want to do, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, there's no fucking way I would go into the woods at night in the Walking Dead
right.
universe. Absolutely no.
Yeah.
Because is it a deer? Is it a squirrel? Is it a group of walkers? You don't know. You don't know.
See now, and if you couldn't see but you could hear, I feel eventually you'd be able to tell the difference between a deer eating a fucking shrub and a walker shuffling around.
Yeah, and then you run into a tree.
And then you run
into a tree. It's like, I don't know.
Run away on the deer, but it's not good period. Just
no, it's not good
to survive an apocalypse. Have all your senses.
Hashtag suboptimal. I mean,
very much. Yes. Yeah.
So they were. I mean, we should. So they're on this island, and there's 8 people, excluding them, excluding Olivia, Ricka, and Clementine. There's an old. Now they don't really say exactly where this island is, but it's obviously near Quebec. It's in Ontario because some of the people speak French, and in fact, one of them at one point is like, "Well, I think we're in France," because they speak French. Yeah, obviously. So they're French Canadian, but
Tillie's Canadian.
No,
is she not? So. Oh, I thought she was.
I think she was born in Vermont, I think, and spent a lot of her childhood in Texas, which is why spinning.
Canada.
She's a cartoonist and illustrator from Austin, Texas.
Oh, that's not Canada.
No, that's where she wasn't. She moved to. In spinning, they said she moved to Texas, and that's where she started. Yeah.
Oh no! She currently lives in Vermont, but
I know she lives in. I'm pretty sure she moved back to Vermont to have when they got married and had a kid. But, But anyway, so they do the obligatory meet the crew, and you got this old French Canadian couple who only speak French.
And they're old.
Yeah, they're old AF. They're like your age.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. There's Emmy, who is the captain of said ship. She's kind of like your surly, It's funny, too, because she's kind of like she's the surly one, but it's like, well, you're the one that put them on the boat. you
Yeah.
have the power to not let them come here, right?
Which says that she has a big heart, but she throws up the
Look at that.
rock
What
hard
that
exterior.
could be like. Yeah,
I don't know.
that's weird.
Dummies.
There's a little one-armed dude. I can't think of his name right now.
Amir,
yes, that's
Everybody-
right.
Yeah,
plucky Amir.
He's got a mere
breaking
one arm
something.
instead of two.
but that's funny.
And that was really cool and extremely telling about this universe where they're like, so they meet Amir and he's got one arm and he's got a little stump on the other one. So they assume that he got bit and someone chopped off his arm. But the truth of the matter is even more gruesome.
Yeah.
That he got bit. A dog?
Dog.
Yeah, dog bit him, and his father thought the worst and amputated his arm. So that's really chilling. That
Yep. There's Miss Morrow, who's the de facto leader. She is at least at this point we think she might be a doctor because she fixed up.
pathologist.
Well, we don't know that yet, but yes, she is
Oh.
a pathologist. But I'm saying like we know that she's the one that fixed Clementine's leg and made her better. There is John, who is Miss Morrow's son, and then there is Fen, who is we find out she's originally from Thailand, but she's found her way here. Is that it? Am I missing anything?
Derek and Sa.
Derek and Sa.
Yeah, it's in the character pages in the back. Derek and
I
Sa.
don't know. Oh, Derek and Sa. Who's Derek? I'm trying to remember who's Derek.
Derek's the dude. Wait a minute.
No, Derek and
Derek
Sa.
and they're the boat people.
No, they're the boat people.
Yeah, well, they're still characters in the book. Oh, you're just talking about
They're
the
not on that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
they come in very late in this book. Yeah, yeah, and you know, of course, there's like feeling. There's the first chapter or two is them feeling out this world, like Clem kind of raising her eyebrow, like oh, it's kind of sus. But she comes along. They start to get to know these other people, and they kind of get a vibe for the fact that maybe this isn't the worst place to be, right? Like it's. I mean, we learn more about each of the characters. We learn that Miss Morrow is, like you said, a pathologist, and she's very busy doing stuff somewhere. And at first, we don't know what, and we eventually find that out. And that's an interesting angle. I mean, she's clearly like the conceit there is that they're worried that she's up to some no good because, and this is where I will give Tillie credit, right? Because if you're familiar with The Walking Dead, we're very used to the leaders of these civilizations being fucked up, right? You had the governor, who was a sadist, and then you had, of course, Negan and the like, and there were others. But but she plays with us here because when in fact they try and figure out what she's up to when she's away from camp, and we're thinking like we're going to see her, doing some kind of nefarious shit. She's actually just doing a dumb thing, but it's not nefarious. She is so enamored with the idea of the zombies being people and her being a pathologist who had done autopsies. She literally examines every body, no matter how decayed it is, notes everything she's found, and then buries the body a proper burial. Like, and that sounds great, but like in a world where there are, billions of dead people. And however many, that is a pretty ridiculous process, right? Like the ceremony of that is absurd.
But she also does it out of guilt.
Yeah, totally. But it's not. So it's not nefarious. This is really dumb and time consuming.
Right. Because I guess we should say this now because it's revealed that one of her other children got bit and turned in the middle of the night and devoured all of the family save for she and her son John. So now what she didn't, the action she didn't take in the past, now she overcompensates and does every action on the dead in the present. Just, I don't know, some misguided desire to not let it happen again. I don't know how it could happen again with the dead, but she dots every I and crosses every T with the dead. And the one thing that was really cool with me was that Clem pushes back. Like Clem's at this point, Clem is a guest on the island, but she grills this lady. Like, so what do you do with the dead? Oh, I check for stuff. Yeah, but what do you do with them? There's a lot of them. Where do you put them? Where do they go? How do you dispose of them? And she hammers her because she wants to know. She wants to prepare for every eventuality. Like, what are you doing with these bodies? I need to know. And the woman's kind of diverts, and does a roundabout examination or explanation of what she actually does. And Clem's not satisfied. And I don't blame her, because if Clem was satisfied, she would never have found the city. And then it could have been really bad.
Well, it ends up being really bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think
which is to Vince's point, where it's like,
inevitable.
listen, everybody was fine, people were living their lives, but it was Clem who's like, hey, there's walkers over here, and we need to get rid of them, and obviously now, because Homeboy's like, well, everybody's resting, I'm gonna keep hacking away, and bit off more than he could chew, and there you go. So it is. I mean, had everything just been fine or left alone, or had they just followed Clem's plan, things probably would have maintained the status quo. But it inevitably, someone either is going to, not just here in this book, but I'm thinking about the comic or the show. Someone's going to feel entitled, or someone's going to feel shunned, or someone's just people also, after a while, I think human nature for a lot of people, complacency is just like, everything is great, I need to fuck something up, and they just, whether they do it to themselves or bring it upon themselves or do it to other people, it's like they can't just, we see it in today anyway.
Yeah,
people
I live with somebody
enough alone.
That's not
fine,
happy.
Don't touch it.
Well, the interesting thing about what you're saying is that, again, depending on your perspective, you could read this and think, and we're kind of dancing around, but what David's alluding to is that there is this other side of the island, which is basically barricaded, but a lot of people, there's a lot of Walking Dead there, and they haven't just wiped them out en masse, because again, the boss lady wants to give everybody their proper burial. And so it's always been like, oh, well, we'll get to that eventually. And Clementine, this is like her, she discovers this, and she's like, okay, this is where things go wrong.
This is bad.
I can't have this, so I need to fix this. And like David said, so she creates this, they create a plan where they basically create a mouse trap, a small tunnel.
Not even a Rube. It's not even Rube Goldberg. It's just like, listen, they have to. It's
a door. It's basically a door.
Yeah.
That
like
empties.
a well, like a door. Yeah, and they can get a couple in at a time, kill them, pull them out. And the idea is they'll just do this methodically over the course of probably a few months, and eventually clear the place out. But yes, and then what happens is John, the son of the boss, who is, it's fair to say he's a very hard worker, but he's completely underappreciated by his mom. His mom's always berating him, and
he's got something to prove.
Yeah, there's some issues there, and so he thinks, well, I'm going to speed this process up, and he widens the hole, and then of course things go horribly wrong, because then they overwhelm him, and then they get free and basically wipe out the place. But I will say that depending on your perspective here, you might say like, oh, John done fucked up, or oh, it's his mom's fault because she's the one that made John feel inferior and needed to prove himself. But ultimately, I think, and it gets back to Vince's point about how, like, throughout The Walking Dead, you could really, even like, our heroes are really often to blame, because they come into these, and same thing here. I mean, it is probably fair of Clementine to assume that was a dangerous situation that could have eventually become untethered. But they had lived in that situation for years, or a year. I don't know if it's years, but long time, and had been safe and surviving. And then she gets her bright idea, and then she's the first domino. And so, I think you could fairly blame her. I mean,
it's almost as if like idealism is bad.
Right.
Like,
well,
this place could be perfect.
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
I mean,
So she came into it thinking we could actually make this place sustainable. So she had this idealistic view of what this island could be, and so embarked upon a plan that could have worked were it not for the fly in the ointment, which was John, who busted his ass just to prove, yes, I could do all this work and more. Look at me, Mom. And so Mom, you could go back and say, well, Mom was the fly in the ointment, because had she appreciated John, he wouldn't have overextended himself and stuck to the script and just done a couple zombies every day. Yeah, but I guess you go to the first link in the chain, which is Clem, who instigated the first plan in the beginning.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, if you think about it, it's very reminiscent of the OG, the first quote-unquote civilization community we have in the original Walking Dead, which is the prison. Right? I mean, they come up with this plan, and it works for a long time. Like, it's pretty much panacea for a long time, right? Like, they are pretty safe. There's lots of security measures. There's lots of redundancy. They have food and weapons and shelter and electricity, and I mean, right? But we know that eventually it ends very horribly, right? To the point where, and spoilers, anyone that hasn't read The Walking Dead after 15 years, but
yeah.
But Rick's pregnant wife or wife and newborn baby are devoured.
Well, there's not a scenario that exists within the artificial construct that is time where entropy doesn't win. Entropy will always win. So you could say, yes, it's only a matter of time. Are the events accelerated because it's fiction? And, you have to placate the reader and give them some, give the people what they want. But I think, again, one of the themes is that entropy sucks and it will devour you. So that's it's sad, but we see it on a small scale in The Walking Dead. But in the real world, it's very much true. Like, we exist for a finite period of time.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps expanding, like a person to a society to a continent, I guess, and then to the whole planet. Like, this planet's not going to be around forever. Entropy will destroy this planet.
Yeah, one of my favorite
feel-good episode, folks.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about these books are, and you touched on it a bit when you were saying like that they didn't know how to do like arithmetic or read. The original Walking Dead basically happens like so coincident with the start of all this that the vast majority of the characters, at least for the majority of the 160 issues, are native to our world, like the pre-apocalyptic world, right? So there's no loss of knowledge base. But in this, these are almost everybody we come across in the first two volumes of this are kids, and they are effectively digital natives. They're apocalyptic natives. They haven't been properly schooled, right? Like at one point, the girls don't know that what a cervix is, right? They don't, right? Remember, Clementine didn't know what her period was, when she got it in the first book, and so I love that because that's how it would be. It would only take a few years before these kids who are children, growing up in this world, wouldn't have any of that knowledge base that we take totally for granted. Because who doesn't know about basic biology unless you're not subject to, very small percentages of our planet wouldn't, know about that kind of thing these days. So I do very much love that. And it makes for some fun moments and some heartbreaking moments. I mean, there's the point where Clem is getting to know I can't think of the Asian girl's name, Fen. And Fenn's like, oh, I want to eventually get to Thailand, and because I have a sister there, and she's got this tiny pieced together map, and you just realize like she has no concept of the world,
no idea
what the globe looks like how big it is. She just doesn't know, and why would she, right? But like we're like, oh snap, like she has no clue how hard this is going to be, like to get to Thailand. Like it's not like a a 2-day travel with a horse, or a ride with a horse. It's
she did not have the luxury of education.
Right. So, so things like that I really do enjoy, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the first one we are exposed to the idea of Amos being Amish, and of course early in the first volume, Clementine is brought into an Amish community and the like, and so we get an exposure to that. And then in this, we really get a fairly deep exposure to Ricka being Jewish. That's as the book goes on, and Ricka for a chunk of this book is feeling quite unrequited by Clementine, because she's kind of put her heart out there and made it very clear of her feelings, and she feels like Clementine loves her too, but Clementine just can't give in. I guess the good news is eventually Clementine does acquiesce and say I love you, and they go for it. But Ricka is trying to create a sense of safety and community, and is off for a period of time working on a place, and she finally brings Olivia and Clementine into it, and it's basically like a base, like a home base for them, and it's set up so that she loses her sight, and there's different textures, and the room is open space, so she can basically get around. It would be the equivalent of if you had a sight impaired person in your home, making sure your home was equipped that way so that they could navigate properly. But it's also being turned into a synagogue, which I think is fascinating, because I don't know how old Ricka is in this book, but she can't be much different from Clementine. So by proxy, I mean, if they've been in this world long enough that they don't know basic biology, right, then they also wouldn't. I would think she wouldn't know all that much about her faith, although she has pieced together a fairly decent chunk of her faith, and brings them into it in a way, and they get very excited and want to have bat mitzvahs, and they have bat mitzvahs, which is cute
because it's hopeful.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the things I love about it, and here's me, a Gentile, talking about this, but we don't have to get into a big, we've all made our thoughts known about organized religion over the years. But I've always said that of the major organized religions, the one I've always been down for has been Judaism, because the underlying tenets of Judaism are pretty universally cool things, like being selfless, acts of kindness, acts of contrition, giving to your community, the community being greater than the whole, things like that. So, and again, no one listening to this, please don't take offense. If you're not, I'm just saying, for me, of the major religions, I've always thought Judaism was the one that, if I somehow was forced into a, picking one, that would probably be the one I chose. And I love that this book celebrates that and makes the idea of this, they're taking all of the good things from being religious and giving themselves joy and hope. And that's cool, right? Because they're not burdened by all the other shit, the history and the complexities that come with that. And I really did like that, and it surprised me because, maybe it's just something that Tillie felt compelled to do. But I do find her choice fascinating, right? Because I'm pretty sure she is Christian or was raised Christian. So maybe her wife's Jewish. I don't know. But it's interesting that she chose Judaism to be the vessel there, and I'm glad she did, right?
Me too.
In the sense that it, and again, it's my own issues. If they walked in and it was a church, a Christian church, and she's like, "I'm going to baptize y'all," I would have been grown city. It would have been I would have been major side eye.
It's I'm out. Yeah.
Right. I would oh God, here we go. What? What are you talking about? Right. So it's funny to me that because it was Jewish tradition and religion, I found it very heartwarming. But if it was just the same Christian rites and rituals, I would be Christ, come on, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really respect and admire Judaism because I think they're one of the, if not the only, religions that recognize that there are systems at work other than their own. They are very much open, and I think a lot of their teachings are intrinsic to magic.
Oh, sure, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a mysticism to
right, and
Judaism,
you would never see that in the Catholic faith. What? What is this? Tree of life? This is pagan. It's evil. It's Satan. Judaism is smart. It's worldly, and I think it was the perfect choice for Ricka and what she wants out of this existence, right? But to go back to they don't know basic biology, but Rika knows religion. The stronger the faith, the more it is passed on, I think. Like biology is one thing, like periods, yeah, it's essential, but it's not as essential as religion to one of very strong faith, right? So I think that information would have been passed on with more expediency than, you wipe from front to back. Do you know what I mean? Right? Yeah, because we see it. Like for a lot of denizens of this planet, religion is the number one. There are signs around my community. They're football signs. Like they got the helmet of the local team, and it says there are three things: God, family, and the Bucks. That's the local team. So it's like I would put family far above number one, but whatever. That's just the mindset, right? And
Sure.
Look at the political motivations. A great deal of it is based on what people believe, and that shouldn't be. Because again, I'm on the soapbox, and I don't want to be there. But I think that Rick is by far the most complex character in this series, and that's why I love her, because she has concerns that go beyond the here and now, right? And I had to laugh because as I read the interactions she has with Clem, and she's basically laying it all out, like, gee, if that's what I knew it took for you to get me to hold my hand, I would have done it a long time ago. Or like, I'm waiting for you. I'm here. Whenever you're ready, I'm here. There was it wasn't a toy. It was a craft kit when I was small. Those around the same age as me will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say chip away. It was these statues that were dipped in, I think it may have been resin or like a slightly softer plastic or some material. And the kit came with a mallet and a chisel. And you would tap away at the exterior slowly because it was pretty thick. And you're tapping. And the more you tapped and chipped away this stuff, it revealed a statue underneath. Like it would have been Spider-Man or Superman, right? And then you got paints with it that you could paint. That's not the point. But the point was, I'm thinking Rick is doing this chip away, and she's just tapping away at Clem's exterior, and she is not revealing the statue. Like she cannot break that shell, man. And that's appropriate because when Clem was ready, she did. Like you cannot shove Clem in a direction she does not want to go. She's very headstrong, and it all goes back to that. I mean, she felt it from even before this book. She felt it, but she has this dark cloud, knowing that it's almost meta, knowing that she's the main character, so she's going to survive this shit, and she does not want to get too close or open up to those around her, like to an extreme degree, because she knows that something's going to go south and people are going to die, and she doesn't want Rika. She doesn't want to lose Rika. So her logic is, I won't even initiate this relationship because I don't want to lose her. I'm not going to buy a puppy because the puppy is eventually going to die. Right? It's that better to have loved and lost than never have loved at all. That she does not subscribe to that notion. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. The character, Rika and Clem are as fully fleshed out as the best Walking Dead characters that have preceded them, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. The other big moment of the first half of the book is that they hadn't seen Olivia in a while, and then Clem comes up to her and she's like huddled in a corner and she's like, "Don't come near me," blah blah blah. So of course, like again, you're thinking like, "Oh God, she got bit." Like here we go. And she even says, "I was bit," and you're like, "Ugh." And then Olivia's like, "Where? Let me see." Like, because she's thinking like, "Well, maybe we can save you. Like, cut off your, And she's like, "No, it's inside me." And Clementine's, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" She's like, "Yeah, I can feel it inside of me moving around." And Clementine's like, "Oh Christ," and like obviously she's pregnant, and so it's like at first you're like, wait a minute, like how's some girl pregnant? Like from who? Right? Like I have to say, like it took me a minute to be like, oh, it must be Amos's kid. Like I didn't like at first I'm like, wait a minute, like when did this happen? But you know, I mean, obviously she and Amos hit the skins and she's pregnant, and you know this is new news for her. She's never experienced it. Now it's interesting that Clementine knew about pregnancy, but you know, to be fair, she had been around. You know, at least in the Telltale game, she was with a big group of people, including a family that had a baby. So, you know, I presume that's how she knows about what all that's about. But clearly they don't know a lot. Like she doesn't know what a cervix is. Like later in the book, she's like, "What is a cervix?" Like so she knew what pregnancy was, but she had no idea really like how it went from there. You know,
this is not the Nostromo. You don't have an alien in you.
Yeah, you know, and then and understandably, when you're Clementine and you've lost everybody you care for in your whole life and managed to survive, and that's all you think about is keeping people safe. Now you have to figure out a way to keep a baby safe.
Oh, can you imagine raising a baby in this world? Like, I mean, okay, Judith, it worked for her,
Yeah.
But that's like,
But that was a hell of a support system. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Well, look what happened to Mercy in this. Mercy's a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not for long, but such is the world in this universe.
Yeah.
You got to give them credit. I mean, I think this is one of the things that we forget or conveniently forget is that it must take a massive effort just to not only fall asleep, but to wake up in this morning. How do you go on knowing that there's stuff lurking around every corner, even when you take steps to make it safe for you and your people? As we've seen, it does not end well. So how do they keep going?
Well, that's human nature, right?
The spirit, perseverance.
Right, and I mean, I think there's as much social commentary there as anything. It's
right,
like
but when you see Grandma, like, you know, what's on the buffet, Grandma, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails, right? And then the closer it gets to, you know, to you, it must be. I don't even think demoralizing is the word. It's like demoralizing to the nth degree. You'd be catatonic.
Well, I think some people would be catatonic, and those people are probably dead, right? Like those are the people that have died. They've either killed themselves or they've gotten eaten, and it's these people that are able to somehow compartmentalize it or numb themselves to it, that can soldier on. And I mean, you guys know I'm a huge fan of The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and you know, to me, that is the tent pole for this kind of thing. This idea of how does one soldier on in a world with literally no hope, and you know, in that case, it was the father's love for his son and really fear for his son's dying, and that kept him going until he couldn't anymore. And I think it's the same thing in this world. I mean, you just do it because that's what we do. We are forces of momentum.
Right.
I mean, it's a much more insidious and gross version of how a lot of people live their lives. Just punching the clock, right? Wake up, rinse, repeat, because that's what you got to do. You got to do that because that's how you put food on the table and you keep a roof on your head. And it sucks and you hate it, but like that's what you do, because what else are you going to do? You know, and that's and then the next thing you know, you're 65 and you're like, oh, I hope I can retire, right? Like that's kind of the journey a lot of people take. So.
Yeah, I think one of the themes, one of the many themes of Walking Dead is you can plan for every eventuality. I like the way that they fashioned armor out of garbage, right?
Yeah.
Just to stop from getting bitten. You could shore up the defenses around your little unit. You could make nice with the people around, the humans or the regular people around you, or try and just to ensure that nothing is going to happen, and something always does. Like, so I think that's a commentary on just plain life. Like John Lennon, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. You know, that you can plan for every eventuality until you remember that, oh, didn't plan for that. Like there's always something that sneaks through the net. And I think
right. There's how many people, particularly, and I don't want to be gender insensitive, but this is typically been portrayed over the years as a male thing, where it's like, young couple. I'm not ready to get married because I want to make sure my career's set before I get married. And I don't want to have kids until, we have money in the bank and own a home. And it's like, all these things. And it's like, at some point, life just has to happen.
Right.
Like you have to. And bluntly, I remember I had that conversation with Beth way back in the day before we had kids. She was like, let's, start having kids. And I was like, I'm not ready. I was early in my career, and she was like, no, let's, like life's a journey, right? Like there isn't. It's never going to be a perfect time for any of this stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, my point is, like, I think it's a very common thing. And again, this is on like to the 1,000th power, because in this case, it's like literally, can I survive another day versus like just do I have enough money to like have a kid?
And
so
we're aghast at the thought of a baby being born into this world, but that needs to happen, or eventually the human organism will extinguish. Right? No one wants to, and that's not the right thing to say. It's not the best case scenario for childbirth, but it's a requirement, because there will be a point when everybody on the planet, if no children are born, the people will just fade out. And so, Planet of the Zombies. And so you don't want to see it, but it has to happen. So that's Olive is really, the progenitor of the next generation, and there needs to be many, many more Olives. But how do you take care of those babies? How do you ensure that those babies, aren't finger food? That's the question, right? There's so many. I got to give Kirkman credit, and I guess I should give Romero credit before I give Kirkman credit, because a lot of these themes were in the Romero's original Dead trilogy, and the metaphor, the possibilities for metaphor within the zombie genre are so great, so deep, and Romero recognized it. Casting a black man, the very first black lead in a film with Night of the Living Dead, and then he had a commentary on consumerism in Dawn of the Dead, and then he had commentary on the military-industrial complex in Day of the Dead. So it's not just like, and then he fucked it up after that, but whatever. But the genre is rife for exploring the human condition, ironically, through dead people. Ambulatory dead people. I love the zombie genre, and all of that stuff Kirkman exploited to his Walking Dead series, and with great effect. I'll give him huge amounts of credit. Like it is. I think it's pretty much safe to say Walking Dead is the best zombie comic ever created, right? There have been contenders, right?
Sure, well,
there has been. There have been earlier attempts that weren't as well thought out.
Is transcendent, though, right? Because it is the most successful independent comic of the last 20 years.
Right.
Full stop.
But there have been series that have toyed with a lot of the themes that are brought up in Walking Dead, like Dead World. Right,
I was just going to say,
but it just wasn't as carefully considered as Walking Dead.
But what Walking Dead has is that almost sometimes it's impossible to fully. There's not an equation for it, but it broke through. Right, it became a cultural phenomenon where millions of people experienced it and were pulled in. Right, and that's not easy to do, especially in today's world where attention deficit and a trillion options to for your time and attention.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the audience and the time of Dead World were not conducive to an exploration like Walking Dead. It was part of the black and white boom where it was get rich quick, and violence and extreme gore sold comics. So they were more concerned with the surface sheen than they were with the stuff that was going on underneath it. But it did precede Walking Dead, like Gary Reed and company. That was a book that was landmark, but they didn't take it as far as the market would allow at that time. I mean, it was all, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it was a different mindset.
Vince Locke's art wasn't obviously as polished as Moore's or even Adlard's later, but it's a lot of those earlier attempts also mostly just focused on the zombies, like you said. It was all about violence,
like King
and gore,
Zombie.
and that was whereas here, The Walking Dead was, as much as you could just give it the short shrift and say, oh, it's a zombie comic. It was really about the humans surviving
100%,
and telling their stories. So it was so Kirkman played it smart. He played it right, and obviously it paid off for him is an understatement. But it's definitely it's. And I think and for our betterment as well. I mean, we were extremely entertained by the comic. We thought the early seasons of the show were great. So I mean, it brought people together. I mean, it made fans of the medium, whether or not I think it did as well a job as any comic to bring new readers into shops. Like you could look at Sandman and things like that as examples. But I think it's when someone is going to try to school people in the future on what makes comics great or what were some great comics or series that people enjoyed, you'll hear Spider-Mans or hear Batmans, and you're going to hear your Walking Deads, because it was massive, and it still is. I mean, obviously, the book is done, the series ended, now they're doing the color versions, and Tillie's doing a spin-off, and it's just it's unstoppable.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I've derived great entertainment from Spider-Man, and to a far lesser extent, Batman.
Sure.
But I never, ever once read either of those titles and thought on a level that I did when reading Walking Dead.
Right. Well, the other thing that
different audience
that Kirkman did right is that there is permanent change in his world, right? These characters you care about die, sometimes shockingly, sometimes when you're not expecting it. And that is something that we've talked about a million times you can't do
I think permanent should be in quotes. There is permanent change, but only for a select amount of characters.
Almost all of them die. Almost every character that we have meaningful exposure to in The Walking Dead dies over the course of the book.
Except the core.
Most of them die.
Well, I'm just saying, TV show, you're never going to lose
the TV
Rick.
show's a different beast.
Right. But the TV show...
Again, that he didn't, he was a writer in the writer's room in the TV show.
But the comic is a different story. Right, it's a different story. But some characters have more permanence than others.
Right, but in The Walking Dead, the shocking moments, the reason this was a water cooler book is because people died.
Yes, totally.
And you were like, holy shit, I can't believe that person died. Oh my God, I can't believe that this thing happened. And I just, it seems, a lot of the greatest things, when you talk about them, they seem so simple because you're like, oh, why? Like, it's the why didn't I think of that? Like, he just created this long form story where there were consequences that lasted. Things you cared about, people you cared about die and get destroyed. And it's like, why don't more books do that? Now we know why the Big Two doesn't do that, but like, why don't more books do that? Like, no, admittedly, there aren't that many books that go. I mean, how many independent books have gone for 160 issues? Like, not really. I can't think of many other than at least in the last 20 years. So it's. I understand it's not. But even like Fables, right? Like, nobody really dies in Fables, and I love Fables. I'm right there. I mean, I think it's really great. But like the characters are all kind of there. Like they don't really die. There's not like major losses, right? So yeah, I mean, I can't think of many independent books or creator-owned books that you have the kind of change and upheaval that you got in Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. Even like Cerebus, right? Like Cerebus is around for the whole thing, right? Like,
yeah, but only to complete the payoff of you will die alone, unloved, and unmourned.
Like Strangers in Paradise, I mean, they're all still alive. I mean, like
Right.
David dies because David is it. But like, I mean, spoilers again for a book that's 25 years old now. But I mean, like, but you know, Cat and Kachu, like they're all still around. They're all still the centerpieces of the book. Not that they shouldn't be, but I'm just saying, like, I can't think of many long running independent books where you have that kind of permanence of change. Like Love and Rockets, right? Like, I mean, most of those characters are still around, right? I mean,
Yeah,
right?
the core.
Yeah, and
I will
Love
say in
and
100
Rockets.
bullets, most of the characters die. Over
Right.
100 issues.
But I mean that's the nature of the beast. I mean, you live by the gun, die by the gun kind of thing. So that's kind of inevitable. But I mean, you do have some stories or some series like where you would have characters that you see their stories over the course of their lives, and you might come to an issue where one of them dies, but the creators are just going to the next issue. You'll get a story where same character just earlier in their life, so they're never really gone. Their life may have ended as far as the story goes, but they can still just go ahead and kind of just tell stories when they were younger or from the day before. So it's like, well, then they're not really gone. Then you're still telling stories with these characters, just that you couldn't let go. You could have just let them, like Kirkman did in The Walking Dead, and just kill them off. But you want to just keep telling stories with this character, no matter what age they are.
Yep.
Yeah. True that.
I mean, we should say that the girls do their whole triple bat mitzvah. I definitely got to give her props for throwing the Hebrew in there. Oh, yeah.
Did she get it right?
Yeah, there was. I mean, no, phonetically, that's what's. I seriously. That's why I would always have fun. Not have fun, but I'd never be embarrassed bringing an outsider to synagogue, because they can definitely follow along. The Talmuds, the prayer books, they're in Hebrew, and right on the same page, next column over, it's you can read it from left to right, phonetically with English letters, so everybody can follow along. If you don't know Hebrew, you can still say the prayer without a problem. So yeah, Rika did her best, and going by memory and what she could see to write down. But yeah, if you've been to synagogue, whether you were bar bat mitzvah or you've been in any kind of service for any of the holidays, a lot of it, yeah, the Baruch Atah Adonai, that's a given. That's how it always starts. But yeah, everything else, I mean, it made sense.
Now I know how Gomez Adams feels when Morticia speaks French. Say something in Jewish, David.
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
Or sorry, in Hebrew. Shut up.
I'll record me during the Hanukkah.
Cute.
What I was going to say is, because of my extracurricular studies, a lot of it is in Hebrew. Some of the characters are in Hebrew, and it is a motherfucker to decipher that language. It is very hard. Maybe, because I was, raised English with very simple 26 characters. Hebrew's a motherfucker. It's hard.
My name in Hebrew is only 3 characters.
DAP.
The DVD, the Dalet, the Ved, and Dalet again. So because our vowels are within the characters, so you could have the letter D and the letter B look almost identical, except there's like an extra little character inside the, almost like not a carrot, but so that's how you can tell the difference between the letters. So a lot of the symbols look very much the same until you kind of just look at it. But vowels are kind of just not non-existent, but kind of not there, because they're just because of the way they're written when you write Hebrew. So yeah, I've always wanted to get a tattoo of my name in Hebrew.
I bet you have robust bonus features.
Nice.
One of the best transitions in the book is after they've done the whole ceremony, and there's a splash page where Clem is hugging Rika and Olivia, and she's like, making it right between us. It feels like the whole world's been saved. And then, they're like, oh, yeah, we're adults now. Oh, you two are girlfriends. And then interstitial chapter 7, they wake up, come out of their new little hangar home. Shit is completely tits up. I mean,
that shoe's got to drop.
The shit done hit the fan.
Shit done hit the fan. There, it's a dark, dewy sort of cloudy, misty, overcast morning, and they see someone in the distance, and it's lo and behold, it's a Walking Dead, and then they realize that they're surrounded by them, and it's like, what the f? And that's really, and then that pretty much, as we've kind of alluded, that's really what happens here. Is they quickly try and find everybody else. They go to Morrow's house, where they assume they're all huddled up, and they're not wrong, but we find out that a few people have already succumbed. And the big news is, and I think you mentioned it early in the episode, it's like Rika breaks off from Clem and Olivia.
Which I would like to comment on that.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly bad choice.
Yeah, you let the blind girl break
Why?
off? Like,
right.
what?
It's dark.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes zero sense to me. I'm like, the fuck? Why are you letting her go? Are you stupid?
Yeah, especially given that it's an absolute obsessive phobia for Clementine that she's going to lose her.
Right.
So, yeah, it's
made no sense. But that is the one. I know the goal was to put Rika in danger, and we'd all be like, "Wah!" and okay, pull her out of it. That's great. Yeah. It's like Glenn with the dumpster. But the logistics, it was an incredibly unwise decision to let the blind girl not only go at night, but alone. Like, whatever.
And they all meet their doom for the most part. Emmy dies heroically by saving Olivia so she can get on the boat. There's a boat. There's the boat, the same boat that they got there with. There's one boat. So they're trying to make it to the boat. Olivia, who's the captain, she lets herself get bitten and killed effectively to save Olivia, who gets on the boat. Amir gets killed because he runs back in to find John, who we already know is dead. And of course, John's in there and he's all zombied out, and a bunch of zombies kill Amir. And so most of them die in this brouhaha, and of course they're on the boat ready to roll out, and Clementine understands, like, I'm not leaving until we get Rika. And of course, we're thinking, is she dead? Is she not dead? And I guess to Tillie's credit, she gives us a bit of a happy ending in that Rika does show up. And
before you move on, the sequentials for that scene are very vague. You don't know. You just see a zombie wearing a hat.
Got the hat on. And
and it's she doesn't full face reveal.
Yeah,
I just think it was poorly played. That was a crucial scene in the final passage of the book, and I think it could have been better fleshed out.
I agree, because in the panel you're talking about, well, you see, if you go back a page, you see that there's a zombie heading for Clementine, and behind that is another shadowed figure wearing a hat, and you think, okay, well, is that another zombie? And then you turn the page, and the zombie is like collapsing on Clementine, and she's saying, "I'm here, Clem."
Yeah.
But it almost looks like it's Clem saying that. Obviously,
right.
I'm Clem, so you're like, okay, and you kind of figure it out. But to your point, like, when you first see that, maybe that's what she was going for. I thought Clementine, she was getting about to get bit because she refuses to get off the dock. But obviously that's not what happens. It is in fact Rika. So escaping is the same trio. It's Olivia, Rika, Clem, and now they're joined by Fen.
Yeah.
So now their trio is now a quartet. And we should mention there was a mention during the calmer times of an interaction that Morrow had with Sa, right? Is it Sa, isn't her name?
Yeah.
With a ship captain who had a bigger ship, and they had tried to barter and could never make it happen. But they were like, maybe you could find her in this trading town. And so after they escape from the boat, the chapter 8 and final chapter, I think it's final chapter, right? Is it's final chapter. They are 3 weeks later into this much more developed town, that's got pretty much a fully functioning society in it, and and they are looking for Sa, and they find her. And Sa, interestingly, is also an amputee. Sa does not have either of her legs, which is interesting. And Sa and her, I assume it's her lover, her partner. I don't know, like her partner, lover, whatever. Have a big old
first mate.
Yeah, first mate. But they seem like they're involved as well, like at least it's implied. But they have a big old boat. But unfortunately for them, their big old boat lost its crew. Their crew is missing. They assume the crew is dead, which is always a good assumption in this world. And so Clem's like, take us. We'll be your crew. You know, we like, and there's a cute little thing where she's kind of like making her case, and she's like, I only have one leg. Rick is going blind. And she kind of like goes down the list of all of their issues. She's like, but we'll bust our ass. We can be your crew. And they're like, all right. Well,
like there's 5 of us. Well, 4.
Right,
one isn't born yet, but
yeah, right. She's like, we got another one with the baby, and they're like, oh my god. But they convinced them. I guess. Strange bedfellows, and that's kind of how that is how we set off for the third and final volume, which is that they're on this ship and heading out for further adventures.
Land, air, and sea.
And the book ends with not explicitly, but it's implied that Clementine and Rick consummate their relationship.
Yes, I thought it was great that Clem was willing to part with a pair of perfectly good socks, which are very important for a picture of the 3 of them. That was sublime
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an old world artifact that suddenly has new meaning depending on where you are or how your situation in life. Like to anybody in the wild or on their own, a Polaroid, they wouldn't even think twice about it. But the 3 of them have come to a place where they're not secure, but they're better off than they were. Their lives aren't being threatened. They realize that there's something to be hopeful about in life, and so they want to capture the moment in something that to the wider population of the planet means really nothing anymore. That was really cute and really, I thought it was touching.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we are right now. Let's capture this. Because, as you well know, it ain't going to be like this right now forever. So let's just hold on to this for as long as we can. It was great.
I agree.
I thought it was one of the best parts of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who needs socks more than Clem? She needs that sock.
She needs them socks.
Yeah. What a great book. Obviously, spoiler warnings. Isn't it smart to put the spoiler warning at the end of the episode?
Always.
Yeah.
Well, listen, book of the month. You
got to take it for granted.
Book of the month. They know that.
Right.
We're going to go.
I don't know why I didn't. I don't. It's weird. I either just read the first book maybe too quick, or I was too into it to really kind of just take my time and soak it in. But for some reason, this book, there are a lot of panels where I'm almost it. I never noticed really that I guess Tillie was influenced by Jacques Tardy. I'm not saying she was, but there are definitely images here where I see some faces, especially with the old French couple. But I see faces, and I'm like, that looks like something I'd see Tardy draw.
Yeah, well, Tardy is not known for refining.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Tillie has a rough-hewn approach, and I think they're from the same state. I don't know about the same street, but they're state members. Right. Yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm. I can see that when you put it like that. Yeah. Yeah. I love Tillie's zombies.
Yeah.
They're almost undefined. Like they're just splotchy and nasty looking. Like they're nowhere near an Adler zombie. And even Adler was far removed from a Tony Moore zombie. So
yeah.
The Tonys were almost pretty, and
Yeah.
Adlars were creepy, but the Tillies are just Tillies are stuff of nightmares.
Tillie's zombies are Fulci-esque. If you've ever
Okay.
seen Lucia Fulci's zombie, her zombies are really close to that. They're almost as like they're doughy and pudgy and blotty. Like they're blotted with blood and other like shit and everything else. They're definitely not handsome zombies. Yeah, that's one of the problems later on in Romero's movies. A lot of the zombies, they're just gray skinned humans, like, because he didn't have a huge budget.
Right.
So the and you have your figurehead zombies that are decaying and cool to look at, but for the most part, Romero's zombies are just, they just have gray makeup on and maybe some blood splashed on them. And the bigger his budget, the more detailed the zombies were. Like in Day, there's a lot of interesting looking zombies, but Tillies are all like, they're dead. Like you could tell these are people who have ceased to be, and parts of them are just flopping off. And they're scary looking because,
True.
like Ridley Scott, the stuff you don't show is a lot scarier than the stuff you do. And I think that's a lot. Like your mind fills in the details of Tillie's zombies, and it's really a neat approach. I like it a lot. I mean, you don't think horror when you think Tillie Walden, but I think because she's trying new things or things that haven't been done a bazillion times before, that it's a really novel approach to the genre. I like it.
Concur.
Cool. I had to take a breath in that. Well, there you go. Book of the month. Clementine, Book 2, Tillie Walden, Cliff Rathburn, Skybound, $14.99. Dap and I were talking about this in the pre-show banter. I think Skybound should be charging like $20 or more for this. Granted, I'm glad to pay $14.99 before discount.
It's
but
almost 300 pages. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think
when you look at this compared. I mean, so I'm sorry. I mean, we got. I mean, we were looking at off on the side Slack. We were talking about some Kickstarters and how their pricing is just not necessarily Kickstarters, but just crowdfunded work. How the pricing is just insane. And as soon as I saw one today, I was just like, we walked away with Wasted Space for $50 and we've got people who are trying to like crowdfund books. It's like, oh, maybe you get 100 pages and it's a $45 plus shipping. And it's like, dude, I can't.
Yeah.
So for this to be 15 and packed, I mean, yeah, we did talk about it and at length to a degree, but I mean, there's so much more we didn't discuss that anybody who hasn't read it yet still definitely should.
I think the pricing tiers are entirely tagged to status within the industry, right? So Chaykin can charge or can ask what he wants because he's Howard Chaykin.
Right.
But if you get somebody who's just coming up and they're charging you $25 for a PDF,
Yeah.
nice try, my buddy. Nice try. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's bananas.
Yeah, they should all take notes from Ryan Brownie and Tony on how to do Kickstarters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well. So there you go. Clementine, Book 2, Tillie Walden, Cliff Rathburn.
Get it.
Skybound. You need to read it. It's extremely underpriced. Hopefully you've read the first and the second after hearing this, but if you haven't, start from the first.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and I know it's, and sure, recency bias may be a thing, but, and we needed the first book to get here, obviously, but I'm thankful we got the first book and we were introduced to the characters, but yeah, they really feel, I mean, after the plane crashing, after surviving, after finding the island and getting closer, this book, I enjoyed it more, I think, than the first because of how richer and more more real our three heroines felt to me in this book. Yeah, I mean, the first book we were introduced to them, and it's all quick, and you're just going along. But here, we're seeing again, they're still in situations that are just not good and dealing with things. But I got more out of the second book than the first.
I think what you're trying to say is that you're an Amish hater.
Maybe it is, yeah.
It's not.
Maybe, yeah.
I think I know it's bad to tack this on at the end of the discussion. I mean, considering we've sort of kind of finished the discussion, but I'm going to bring it up again. I think the decision to take Fen home at the end is not something Clem would do. I don't think she would risk the lives of her Ricka and Olivia on a snipe hunt for someone.
No,
someone they just met. They just met her.
She's. I mean, obviously she wants to protect her friends, but I think I right now the book ended, and I'm thinking this is just an end. This is just a way to get where she wants to be to be safe. Yeah, okay. If they find Taiwan or whatever, okay, great. But that's not. She's not doing Fen a favor. That might be a side effect of it, but she's not. I like you, Vince.
It just plays into the ignorance and inexperience that they all have. Like, they have no idea what a journey like that will entail. Do they have enough food? Or do they have enough water? Like, you just don't get on a ship.
Because you know something has to happen, because we're not going to have almost 300 pages of them just on a boat.
No, of course not.
No, they're going to run into the quote,
dead. Find pirates, they're going to find.
I mean, with the plane having crashed already, so I assume we may not even see them on the boat.
That's true.
Yeah. Right? I'm guessing they're going to run into the crew. Because why would you mention the gun in the first chapter if you don't let it fire in the last? Like, Tillie explicitly mentioned that we don't know where our crew is. Well, we're going to probably run into the crew before, long. I'm guessing. Yeah. There we go. Book of the month. Love You. Brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com.
You can get this.
Yes. Oh, you can get this. Cheapgraphicnovels.com has this and a plethora of other things. Omniboo, collected editions, OGNs. I always forget the OGNs. Manga. Anything with a spine can be had at cheapgraphicnovels.com for a fraction of the retail price. Email comes after your first order. Reply to it saying 11 o'clock comics is the reason I'm here. And they will gift you with free shipping on your second order.
Clementine Book Two as well as Book One. $10.49.
Forget about it. Just go get it. Yeah. So there you go. I'm not going to talk about the book I wanted to talk about because I think it deserves a close examination. So I'm going to save that for next episode. Okay, Jason? We save that for next episode.
It's that book?
Yeah, it's that book.
Okay. All right.
In your travels, another extremely talented female creator, Zoe Thorogood, is taking a stab at the hack/slash universe. The first, you what?
No, speak on it, then I have questions.
Okay, the first issue came out, I believe, last week. It is called Hack/Slash Back to School. It is a 4-issue mini that takes place early in Cassie's career as a slasher hunter. She just disposed of her mom, and she's very green. She's still she's not the worldly experienced Cassie Hack we've seen in much of the hack/slash stories. In fact, she recently met Vlad before this story, and she tried to kill him. Who wouldn't? I mean, take a look at him. So when this thing opens, she's very worried. She's still clinging to that little girl that was abused at the hand of her mother. They're in a Chuck E. Cheese type restaurant, and there's a costumed mascot. Things go south really quickly. The costume mascot turns out to be a slasher, and Cassie takes steps. This character just lops the head off like two kids. Like, stabs the fuck out of the mother. And it's all done in Zoe's trademark multi-styled approach. You have, she'll try a painterly panel or an op art panel or a very Michael DeForge delineated panel.
The confidence of her playing with different mediums and formats is just...
Yes, and then she plays with Cassie's perceptions, too. There are a number of panels that are split. Where you'll see the costume character in the restaurant, but the other half of the panel is her mother with a bloody, butcher knife in her hand. Or she'll see herself. Half of it is the semi-cocksure, gothed out Cassie, and the other half is that timid young girl who wore glasses. Leveling a gun at her mother. Like, it's really, really well done. But the whole point of the story is Cassie's taken in by Darla Ritz, who saves the day, kills the serial killer, the slasher, and brings her into Hunters for Hire, Darla Ritz's Academy for Girls. And it's a bunch of slayers in training. We're introduced to a number of girls, and it just sets up the rest of the miniseries. Cassie joins, and now she actually has an ersatz family. So, like Frankenstein and Dracula, part of this issue is the narrative is done with a journal, which I love that approach. I think that's a really neat traditionalist approach to horror storytelling. I love it. I thought this issue was a slam bang home run. Loved every part of it. So, Jason, what was your question?
Well, I have read 0 Hack Slash before. So,
okay.
Same.
So you already kind of answered a part of it. So this is a prequel?
Yes. No.
Okay.
No, it's an early story. It's like Cassie Hack Year 1.
Okay, and then is in the Tim Seeley long running book? Is she part of a school of killers? Is that
no?
Or is that new?
No,
this
is new. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So,
and
how
all you
do
got
feel
to
about that?
all you I think it's great.
Okay.
And it's like between the raindrops. We don't know what happened back when, so it only stands to reason that chances are really good if you are hunting slashers and you are a young lady. Okay, she has Vlad with her too, but you're inexperienced. These people have made a lifetime of killing, so the chances of you escaping unscathed or alive are not that great. So the idea that she was trained to do this by somebody, that makes perfect sense to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All you need to know is Cassie's mother, the lunch lady, was a slasher. Cassie killed her and said, okay, I'm going to do this professionally. I don't want this to happen to anybody else. So meets Vlad, and the rest is history. Throw Vampirella in for some delicious seasoning, and there you go, Hack Slash.
Yeah.
No, it's really great. I expected it to be wonderful, knowing Zoe, and it was. So you got 3 more issues to come. Get on it.
Noise.
They gave us the 12 for maybe 12 pages or something as a preview the first time, and so I read that, and I was like, okay, I'm digging this, and I trust Zoe, so I still have to I have to finish the first issue now that it's out, but I'll stick with this mini for sure.
It's getting the band together.
Yeah, I mean, the art's great, but yeah, knowing nothing of the property, I figured, I can, if everything I kind of need to know, well, obviously I have you as a resource, Vince, but I think we can catch up as things go on. But
It's a more introspective, more character-based approach to hack slash, where the property for the most part has been horror exploitation, very much like the movies of the 90s, right? Gory. I guess there's a component of Buffy in hack slash. I guess. But this is a more curious take. Like, she's trying to get into the. And I'm not saying Tim never did this. Tim did this a lot, but it's a modern look at hack slash, a contemporary. Like, people need reasons now, where back then it's like, oh, a slasher, I'm gonna take him out. Mayhem ensues, and that's all we really needed. And I'm not saying this is better than what Tim and company have done. It's just different within the same playing field. So I love it all. I think this is really great. And don't mean to demean Tim's stuff, because I wouldn't be reading this if it wasn't.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Tim's stuff, we wouldn't have this. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, it's funny you mentioned you used the phrase raindrops. But we kind of have a Zoe Orama.
What's this?
So, before New York Comic Con, I started this, and I didn't get to finish it before. This is an adaptation of Joe Hill's novella. So it's Joe Hill's Rain, and it is written by David M. Booher, and who wrote Canto. And Zoe Thorogood is your artist. And this was a 5-issue miniseries published by Image. And our main character, our lead heroine, her name is Honeysuckle Speck. And she is just the cutest. She is adorable. And she is super happy because her girlfriend is going to move in. And her girlfriend, her name is Yolanda Rusted. And Yolanda's father is a pastor. Both of Yolanda's parents love Honeysuckle, couldn't be happier for their daughter to find somebody like Honeysuckle. Honeysuckle doesn't have anybody, so she's delighted to kind of be accepted and be a part of this family, this extended family. So she's getting everything ready back home in Boulder, Colorado, and so Yolanda and Yolanda's mom are driving Yolanda to the house so this way they can go on with their lives. Skies are blue, beautiful, clear day, but all of a sudden something that looks like rain starts to fall. It's not rain. And you're like these little sharp, crystalline, like nails falling from the sky. And if you're outside, you're pretty much dead. And so Yolanda and her mom are up by the car when the rain starts to come down, and Honeysuckle is watching the love of her life basically get ripped to shreds by this rain. And at that point, it's almost like it's just happening here, but it does seem to be spreading. The rain does seem to be spreading, and it's not consistent. It's not like a constant downpour. The rain will stop just like weather patterns, but then it will start up again. But Honeysuckle wants to get back to Yolanda's father to let him know what happened to his daughter and his wife. And so she's going to just make the trip and walk the 30 odd miles or whatever to the house. Doesn't really go all that smooth. Things do happen along the way. There were moments I was reading this book where I'm like, I was almost as hesitant to turn the page because I didn't want anything happen to some of the characters. So I was sucked in. Zoe's art is fantastic in this, and I appreciated this story because it was. I don't know if how much it strays from Hill's original story, but there's a reason why the rain fell. There's a reason why people acted or were behaving the way they were in the story. Initially, you're introduced to somebody because she's a widow, and when the widow's son like talks about things here and there's these little clues that eventually kind of like click as the story wraps up. But there's a scientific explanation, so it's not like it's a sign of the gods that our Earth is dead and doomed and we're all going to die. It's done well. Like I said, the art's fantastic. It's a hell of a story. I didn't know it was. I was going to say it's a nice read. As violent and as sad it can be in parts. It's a self-contained little 5-issue series that if you just need something else, then I would definitely recommend this. As long as you're not squeamish or you're fine with the characters meeting a gruesome end. But I didn't know what to expect going in. All I knew is that Zoe drew this. I've been wanting to check it out. Finally did. Really glad I did. Highly recommend it. If you can get it, great. 5-issue series. I think it's a hardcover also. But Joe Hill's Reign, absolutely recommended in your travels. That's my pick for this week.
Damn, Zoe Thorogood Orama.
That's right, baby.
Love it. Damn, respect. Before I do my in your travels, I want to double check. You guys went deep on Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees when Felice was on in my stead, right?
Yes.
I read it finally. It's fucking great. It's
right?
So great, dude. It's ridiculous.
I can't believe it.
Oh my God. It's I mean, sometimes I cringe at those elevator pitches. It's like when this meets this, but I mean, as I'm reading this, I'm like, it's when Richard Scarry meets Dexter. I mean, that's what it is. And it's fucking, it's the, like whatever your mind says it's going to be, it's that. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like I need this to go on for like 1,000 issues. I'm here for it. I'm really here for it. But no, my In Your Travels is another longtime friend of the show's latest effort, and that is Mr. Andrew MacLean, and that is Snarlagon. Snarlagon is an oversized paper-bound all ages zine that was recently crowdsourced. I believe it's roughly 48 pages, no page numbers, but based on the Kickstarter, it was supposed to be around 48 pages, so I'll go with that. But it's awesome. I mean, listen, this is extremely straightforward stuff. This is Andrew doing an all ages homage to Japanese kaiju movies. I mean, that's 100% what it is. And so if you're a fan of kaiju and you're a fan of Andrew's art, you will love this. Vince, I'm talking to you. But it's drawn in his classic style. It is, it is a little bit fun. I think he hits a lot of the notes that are kind of the tentpole tropes that we associate with those movies, and he hams it up intentionally. And one thing I think that's really neat is after the story ends, you get a couple pages of like people working on making the movie. So it's like people building the set pieces, like them filming, like pumping smoke into a little miniature city scene with the creature in a costume walking around. So it's like he definitely goes all in with the idea of this being a kaiju movie from the 50s or whatever. So really well done. Super quick read. It's basically the size of 2 comic issues. And wonderfully produced, because if you all remember when we had Andrew on the show, he was talking at the time. They had just launched Laser Wolf Attack, which is the imprint company brand that he and his wife started, where he kind of funnels all of his creative work and related ephemera through. And that's where you'll be able to find this. If you didn't back the Kickstarter, you can go to laserwolfattack.com and procure yourself a copy. And I would imagine, knowing Andrew, we'll probably see a Snarlagon vinyl at some point, right?
Oh, of course we will. Yeah.
But the cool thing is we were just talking about how some of these crowdsourced stuff is just wonka crazy expensive. This is $10. $10 cover price. So He created it for mass consumption and mass distribution. So, really, really, I don't know that Andrew's ever done something I didn't think was terrific, but this is yet another in a long line.
I am on it because I did not back it, so I'll go get it.
Snarlagon to the early mom.
Nice. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here with us this time around. We hope you come back next time. In the meantime, you know the drill. Read some comics. Talk about comics. Come to our Facebook or our... do we still have an X thing? We don't?
Who?
A Twitter. Do we have still
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
Well, don't talk about it there because nobody will be answering.
Right. I was going to say I haven't been on X quite a lot.
Facebook, Insta. Just let's talk about it. Come to the Slack, and there's only one way to do that, and that's to jump on the Patreon. Patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. Audio, video, images, polls, pages, downloads, all that stuff. Very, very frequently available. Plus, we open the door to the 24/7 Slack. You can be a member. You can talk to us whenever you desire. You hit me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Chances are good that I'll see it. So that's the thing. Say goodnight. I don't have any song to play, so I'm going to pretend that I'm singing. David.
Good night.
Pretending you're singing and actually singing seem to be the exact same thing.
Who knew?
Who knew?
David.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Tell them you love them more than ice cream.
Ooh.
Like more than words, just like
extreme.
Like extreme.
It's garbage.
What kind of ice cream?
Big general tentpole ice cream.
Wait, let's round out the night. But what is our respective favorite ice cream flavors?
Oh man, shit. I really, really do like.
I don't want to put. This shouldn't be that vexing.
No,
right?
Because chocolate's just like, it's chocolate, great, okay. I mean, chocolate can be good. I like mint chocolate chip.
Damn, you're team Beth and Holden then.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's their jam.
You can add Nina to that team
then.
too. Yeah,
I think it's a nonsense choice, but cool.
Yeah. Mine's Rocky Road.
Oof, that's even bigger nonsense.
What?
I'm not right with that.
I don't even think Rocky Road gets. Is that? I feel like they stopped making that in the 80s.
Get out of here! You're out of your damn mind.
It's the chunky bar of ice cream.
It's the best of all worlds. Marshmallow, chocolate.
I hate marshmallows. So.
Whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, good time.
And yours?
And let's see what yours is. Vanilla.
Strawberry.
Oh, garbage.
My God.
Yeah, no.
He's gonna
Strawberry. Get out of here.
Oh my God.
I think we hurt his feelings.
That was great.
Oh, not at all. You guys are crazy. Listen, first of all, I'm not a huge ice cream eater, but like in terms of like sweets, if you had to downhill, like I could give up ice cream pretty easily. But yeah, I love me some strawberry. It's delicious.
Okay.
It is good, but yeah.
Is it though?
It's fine. It's a solid choice. It's not my go-to. It's not my first, but I wouldn't. If somebody offered me strawberry, I'd be like, "You got anything better?" I'd be fine with it. But it's yeah.
It's not even in
mint chocolate chip.
It's not even in my top 10.
I mean, you said Rocky Road, dude. It's like
Rocky Road's awesome.
Rocky Road sucks.
You're just like Crazy Town.
That's ridiculous. Like, who eats Rocky Road? You're like the first one I've ever heard that says they eat it.
That is true.
I'm out of here.
I wonder where Rocky Road ranks in terms of popularity. Let me see.
Like I care. What? Don't be Googling it.
Care. I'm just curious. I'm seeing if I'm off base with my thoughts that Rocky Road is not popular. Hold on.
I won't tell you my second choice.
Okay, well, you can guess the number one flavor. This is just popularity, not like best.
Number one flavor of ice cream.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
No. It's either chocolate or vanilla.
It's vanilla, yeah.
Yeah.
Chocolate's number 2.
Okay.
Cookies and cream.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay.
That's fucked up.
Strawberry.
Hype beast.
Yes. Chocolate chip.
Some child's palate.
Which is weird.
This.
Chocolate chip is number 5, but okay. Butter pecan.
That's my number 2. I love butter pecan.
Okay. Chocolate chip cookie dough, number 7.
That's garbage. Vinny eats the shit out of that. Not the chocolate one, the regular one, the cookie dough vanilla ice cream.
Chocolate chip is number 8.
Nah.
Caramel. See, that's weird. I don't think it's like that's kind of thing you put on ice cream.
What word is that?
Caramel.
Why you do that? Why you do that to him? What word is that?
I didn't know. It sounded like some. I thought he was casting a spell. I didn't know what word that was.
Caramel. Atrocious.
Neapolitan's number 10, which is again, that's not really a flavor. That's a compliment.
That's just.
That's like vanilla chocolate and strawberry that don't taste like
Vince,
vanilla
you know
chocolate
what?
and strawberry.
I'm going to concede to you on this one because Rocky Road is number 11.
Yes.
What year was this made?
This year.
78.
Wow. Yeah, seriously. It's like
I hit a Wayback Machine.
I'm going to watch the goddamn Fall Guy and eat some Rocky Road.
I found it.
I
found this from Mosaic back in '91.
It's all text. There's no images.
ASCII little box drawn around it.
I run it through an ASCII.
We're out of here, people. I will not be demeaned. See you next time.
Love you all.
Peace.
That's it for that one.